Hello and welcome to another episode of the Coffee with Coaches podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have with me Jamaal Johnston. Dr. Johnston is the Chief Leadership Grower at LGRC, an organization that specializes in growing leaders through coaching. As a leadership coach, he works with individuals and organizations to increase leadership effectiveness. Dr. Johnston is recognized as an up-and-coming training and developing professional and a student always of leadership. Jamaal, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for having me, sir.
Let's begin at the beginning. I like to sometimes cheekily refer to this as your superhero origin story. How did you discover and become a coach? Like, what was that moment that you realized that maybe you were a coach or that you wanted to be a coach? And then how did you go from there to starting a coaching practice?
Well, I guess professionally, I was doing some, I call it mentoring with a nonprofit. And we had a custom program where we were working with some young men. We were introducing them to, leadership, professional development, financial literacy, and some things like that. So as that program has grown and developed, I started to focus a little bit more on coaching. And my first professional coaching training, I looked at some of the information and I was like, you know what? That looks familiar, and I'm doing most of that already. So my years of me doing what I called mentoring ended up me being coaching. And once I said, hey, this is in line with what I'm already doing, then I kind of just started to progress and do more and more of it.
That's lovely. It's funny because we very often, as we talk about coaching and coaches and their experience, there's so much. I think in my head I see like this Venn diagram of very tightly interlocking circles where they're almost like an eclipse, but not quite. More like maybe an Olympic symbol where it's just these rings. Like you have mentorship and consulting and leadership development and coaching, and like how it's all definitely interlocked, but there's different. It just kind of manifests itself in different ways and plays different roles in people's lives, right?
Yep, absolutely.
It's pretty powerful. I kind of love it. I find that discussing coaching, we end up very quickly talking about all manner of just growing as human beings.
That's one of my favorite topics: leadership and growth.
Let's talk about what you're doing right now in leadership and growth. And I like to ask this question in a sort of like who, what, when, where, why sort of way. Okay. Who do you coach primarily these days, and how do you coach them? Now, do you have like a particular kind of person that you focus on for your leadership coaching, like entrepreneurs, maybe leaders in the community and their family and the church, anywhere necessarily? And then how do you coach them? Do you primarily work one-to-one? Do you have also maybe some small group coaching or like some mastermind style coaching groups? Do you have like, keynote speeches that you do here and there? Do you have like, books that you write? All of the above. I know coaching tends to go down many, many roads. So yeah, who do you coach and how do you coach them?
Well, for me, I think it's pretty simple. I deal with what I call the middle managers, and recently a lot of my middle managers have kind of been in transition, and I'm not sure if that's due to the Great Recession or just other opportunities. And I kind of like to joke and say, I coach rock stars. My clientele are people that are relatively successful and they're doing well at what they're doing. So when I present that to people, they'll say, well, if they're already doing well and they're rock stars, why do they need you? So the kicker is we help our clients move further, faster. Yep. So that's part of the coaching experience with us. And I do mainly one-on-one. Now, every now and then I'll get an opportunity to do some group coaching, but it's mainly one-on-one. So that's kind of where I'm currently dipping my toes in the coaching pool.
Okay, yeah, it's really, I find that no matter what form a coaching takes, no matter what scale or size, small groups, medium groups, like huge audiences or whatever, it's really all of it tries to replicate that feeling, that power of the one-to-one coaching relationship. Because there's just so much. I've heard a number of terms from a number of coaches. Excavation is one that I really like because there's so much unearthing and there's so much guidance. Guidance is another big one. I know a number of coaches think of themselves as like Sherpas almost, where it's like, it's not gonna hike the mountain for you, but I am gonna be able to show you what path to take, where to step, where not to step. But it's gonna be you and us together finding your inner strength that allows you to not just, stay at base camp or get to a certain height and stop there and be like, oh, I think I'm good here, but to push forward and go on to that next level that I feel like more and more people are seeking these days.
Yeah, and again, it might just be because of the time we're in. But when you have especially when we're talking to new clients and we introduce them to coaching, and it's like, hey, part of this, and kind of my style, I like to keep things as simple as possible. When people are talking about, hey, what does a coach do, when we're kind of going through that conversation, it's like part of my job as a coach is to facilitate you getting to the best you. And that's kind of the journey. That's kind of the walk. And just like you said, it's a kind of a guide type relationship and a facilitator type relationship, because ultimately, our clients or the coachees, they are doing high 90% of the work.
Yeah, that's another great word that I hear so often. Facilitation is just it's you participate in the process. And again, it's like, and that's another thing too that I think a lot of people will sometimes, maybe not a lot of people, but I know some people will come to a coaching relationship, they're looking for help, and there's that moment where they realize that they don't need help doing the work. They can do the work. And in fact, they need to do the work. They just need a little bit of guidance to get there. And that the strength they need is already waiting there in them. Like they can do the work that needs to be done. They just need a little bit of help. Not maybe as much as they think, but they just need that, again, that facilitation, that catalyst to help them spark up to whatever their next level is going to look like. And it's different for everybody too. I find that it's pretty powerful how the feeling and the process of that leveling up is very similar. It's very human. It's very like foundational, basic, but each person has it in their own specific ways. Do you find that to be true as well?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And some of the clients that I've dealt with, they, like I said, they're highly productive people. I call them my rock stars. And some of them just need that accountability. They have everything, all the tools they need to do it, and they just need somebody to say, hey, Kevin, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z by last week. Did you do that? And that's as simple and as basic as part of that relationship is. Just, hey, I just need that accountability sometimes just to get me to that next point.
I like in my head, I'm thinking about the Rockstars of Accountability as a terrible band name, but a fantastic concept.
Hey, I might try to use that in some of my content. So I got to beat you to putting it out. I got to get it out before you do.
Do it, take it, run with it. Every once in a while, I'll say something somewhat smart, and I'm more than happy just to have it get out into the world. I don't care. Rockstars of Accountability, playing at a theater near you. Where can people learn more about you personally as a coach, but also learn more about your organization, learn more about what you do? And I kind of like that. This is another two-parter-ish question, because I know there's obviously the website where you go and just to find out more information. But I also like to ask the second part is, where do you like for people to come and meet you and engage with you? Do you have a preferred social media that you really like to spend time on and make connections on? Or is there any way that you'd like to engage with people for the first time?
Yep. So first part is easy, and that's going to be the organization website, which is, of course, the www stuff. LGRC VA as in Virginia.org. So they can kind of hit the website and kind of come across all of the information and all of the nuts and bolts about the organization. Now, for me, and some more in-depth information about the organization, my go-to social media platform is LinkedIn. I kind of have fallen in love with LinkedIn, and I'm putting all of my content through LinkedIn primarily. Then some of it we filter in through Twitter. So main place to find me is Jamaal Johnston. You'll be able to find me because I'm the only Jamaal Johnston associated with LGRC on LinkedIn. And also you can follow us as an organization on LinkedIn as well. So that's kind of my happy place for right now, LinkedIn.
It really is, isn't it? I love that the way you expressed it. I've fallen in love with LinkedIn. It's like it's me too. Like I never, like, for years I thought of LinkedIn as just a resume platform. I used to joke about it being for, and this was a terrible, like, an off-color joke, but like for people with phone holsters back when that used to be a thing, like just to poke fun at it. But then I got to really understand how powerful the platform is for just discovery and building relationships. And like you also mentioned Twitter, which I have maybe a love-hate relationship with. I have to use it with very much care because it can very easily veer off into some just toxic places. But LinkedIn, of course, all social media has that as like a possibility. But I find that LinkedIn, it really, I am kind of in the midst of a love affair with it, I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah, my relationship, and I kind of joke, my relationship with LinkedIn kind of started with LinkedIn just being my Rolodex. It's like, hey, I can know this is where I can have my people at the fingertips, and if I connect with you or I put your information in, I always have it. And it's just kind of grown from there. So I mean, it's kind of amazing, and just the opportunity of networking and reaching out with millions, I guess, millions of people at this point is amazing.
I mean, if we didn't love connecting, I don't think we would do what we do.
Hey, how about that? How about that?
Well, Jamaal, thank you so much for talking with me today. I know we like to keep it short and sweet. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
No, Kevin, that's about it. I know one of the things that we like to do with our leadership training and coaching, we kind of approach it a little bit different. We have a big component of research in what we do, but we're not doing research in order to come up with anything new and groundbreaking. Our research is in existing bodies of knowledge, and we just try to make leadership and coaching as practical as possible. So we're looking to take some of the more theoretical stuff and make it everyday.
Awesome, powerful too. And isn't that always the case? Like things that seem complicated at first, maybe they are at first, but then you learn a little bit more about them. You start to talk to people about them. You start to apply them. And all of a sudden it starts to make a little bit more sense. And then it starts to make a lot more sense. It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Jamaal, thank you again for being here. It's been great to talk to you. We could have done this for a while. I love the shortness of this podcast. It's perfect for everybody, for the listener and for the guest. But I always end feeling like greedy, like I want to keep you around for a while. But thank you for sharing some time with me today. I really appreciate it.
No worries, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And thank you to the audience for listening. Reach out, find out more about Jamaal. He's fantastic. And we'll talk to you again soon.